Hello and welcome to episode number 76 of the Hobbies and Happiness podcast, where we talk about the hobby that makes us happy, tabletop gaming. I'm your host, Dan.
And I'm Jim, and today we're going to be talking about acquiring more power in these card games.
All right, that was, did you forget what we were talking about a little bit?
A little bit.
So today we are talking all about power creep. So I mean, you're not wrong. Like acquiring more power,
more power.
You're getting more power.
Yes.
Sometimes without even realizing it.
Yes.
Sometimes, which is
But you're getting stronger every day.
I like that one. That's pretty good. All right, but before we get into the episode, let's and yes, that was so awkward. Welcome back, everybody.
Hi.
We've been off. If you can't tell, it's been a couple weeks.
Day one.
Yeah, day one of 2023. Hey, happy 2023.
Oh, yes,
happy
that's right.
2023. This is it's just kind of weird.
It doesn't even feel like a new year.
No, you don't think so?
No, it doesn't.
That's interesting. But like, what does a new year feel like?
Exactly.
You know what I mean? You know? Yeah, it's like, well, it's today and it's a new year, but it feels like the same as yesterday. Yeah, I get it. So before we get into the episode, let's talk about our sponsor, Amazon Audible. All right, so just on vacation, and actually, I read a book. I got to finish it, but I started the Witcher series. Mm-hmm. Now I'm actually reading the book, okay, through Amazon. I got a Kindle book, okay. But if you don't want to read it, you can listen to it. So if you go to our affiliate link, www.audibletrial.com/hobbies and happiness, sign up for your free 30-day trial, and you can download a copy of The Witcher and listen to it through Amazon Audible. Now, what's pretty cool is if you are a Amazon Prime member and you sign up, you get 2 free credits. 2 free credits, so you can start book 1 of The Witcher series and then get the second book of The Witcher series. Add it to your account, absolutely free. Now, if you don't like the service, you can cancel before the end of that 30-day trial and keep those books. That's right. Keep those books on your account. Witcher, I'm a fan of the IP. I first got into the series by the video games, but then realized quite a bit later that they were a book series, and so started watching the TV series, Netflix series. But now I'm finally getting into the books, and it's pretty good. I
thought it was the TV show first.
So again, head over to our affiliate link, audibletrial.com/hobbies and happiness to sign up for your free 30-day trial today. All right, so it's 2023, ladies and gentlemen, yes. And Jim, how was your holidays? How was your holiday season?
Sad.
Yeah. we haven't really talked about it. I mean, I don't know if you wanted to mention anything.
Yeah, I had my grandmother passed away at the end of last year, so holidays were just a little bit more lacking something.
Sober. They're it's always a sobering feeling, when you're the first holiday season, without a loved one. So yeah, for sure. So so this happened a month and a half ago.
Close to about a month ago now. I think it was like around December 19th. I forget exactly.
So things on our end slowed down a little bit, obviously so. So that's kind of what Jim was dealing with. But they're there for support, and it's trying time for sure. So I mean I've been there as well, and it's a sobering feeling. It's a sobering time for sure. But it's great that you could be there with your family for that time. So that's pretty good as well. But you told me something. Somebody you just met, right? About the game. So if you haven't seen, we released a video, like our favorite games to play over the holidays, like at holiday gatherings. So Jim, what's your favorite game that you always talk about?
Oh, Dungeon Mayhem.
Okay, and that was on that video.
Yes.
And so you introduced somebody to that game.
Yeah. So I went to a family friend's New Year's party, and their nephew was there. He's about my age. He never doesn't really play a lot of games, and so we got that family. One of the expansions for Dungeon Mayhem.
Okay.
And then my dad also gave them the base set. So
Oh,
we were
okay.
only missing 2 characters, right?
Okay,
So we had
yeah.
10 of the 12. And so he was like, oh, well, which character should I play? Who's a good beginner one? I gave him the Barbarian. Barbarian is so messed up.
Yeah.
There's a lot of ways to mess with your opponents. And with being in a big group, it makes it even worse.
Yes.
For the enemies.
Yes.
It's really fun for the
Yes.
Barbarian. But we ended up playing 2 games. The guy absolutely loved this.
Yeah.
He is like, it's
Everybody who
easy to
plays
get
it loves
into, but it's also can be super complex
Yes.
playing the game.
Yes.
And it's extremely political. And when I was like talking and trying to like make my moves, my dad was just sitting there. He's like, most of the fun is just watching him try to talk people out of doing stuff.
Yeah.
So
Politics is like the best thing about multiplayer card game formats.
Yeah,
It absolutely is. No matter what game it is.
I don't even care if I win.
Yeah, yeah. So I actually played Here to Slay with my wife's family. So we had a 5-player game going. I was telling Jim about this before. I honestly can't remember who won. I think I won. I have to confirm this with those who played because I can't remember. It literally came down to the wire. There was one time I can't remember what hero I had out, but I rolled and I think I needed like a 9 or something, and then I got like I rolled a 3 and I thought it was an 8. I thought it was that's right because one of the dice was a 1.
Oh,
and so the
you
other
thought it was a 6.
no, I thought it was I literally
you
thought it was
the
an
other way.
8.
Oh,
And I'm like, because the way it looked, the way the dice looked, it's a D6, ladies and gentlemen. It's a D6, and I thought it was an 8. It was a D6. Okay. But because I'm literally just so in the moment. I'm like, yes, I win. And then literally the entire table is looking at me like, what are you, Dan, that's a 3, man. So I'm like, as I looked up, I'm literally acting as if like I won I won the game, and people are just like, Dan, no, you didn't. They're like, what are you even talking about?
Dan knows something about this game we don't know.
You can roll an 8 on a D6. There's a way, guys. Trust me, there's a way. No, I was out of my mind. I had no clue what I was thinking.
Now that I'm thinking about it, playing in like a bigger group of people in Here to Slay, when you're trying to like plus your stats and like plus your abilities to make them work, but you're versing 4 other people that could be like, yeah, no, we're gonna go minus you. We're gonna go minus you. It's like,
so
you can
one of
seems hard to do.
Yeah, it was so much, dude. It was so much fun though.
Yeah.
One of the funnest things for me was like my father-in-law was playing, and so like my father-in-law was like literally getting into the game and like trying to figure out. I'm like, it was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
So and we had one of the players was playing the thief. So every turn he's like, I'm gonna activate him and just take. I'm like, oh no! So like I forgot we can actually do that now. Oh no! So yeah, that was a lot of fun. And of course, I played a bunch of Secret Hitler. Oh, the game is so
Social
much
deduction
fun.
games are fun.
So much fun. That we played that on Christmas, New Year, Christmas Eve. Yeah, I played that on Christmas Eve. Everybody who plays that game loves that game.
Yep.
Everybody loves that game.
Yep.
So yeah, I played 2 of the games that were on my list for that video.
I played
at
mine.
the holidays.
I played mine, and I almost played 10,000.
Oh, really?
Yeah, we were talking about it at my ma's, and we didn't play it though.
Yeah.
Really close.
Yeah.
Really close.
Yeah. But yeah, so those never a dull moment with those games, man.
Yeah.
Really, really, really never a dull moment. And one game that I got for Christmas was Smash Up.
Yeah.
Dude, that game is so much fun, man. I literally am playing and I'm like, I might have to make some Smash Up content, dude. But what's interesting that I found out is I think it's the creator, Paul Peterson, is a Magic guy. Like he worked in I think he worked in Magic R&D. But I think he did work on Magic design in one way or another. And so as I'm playing, I'm like, I can totally tell. I can tell. But also I made the comment, like I played with my wife and my brother-in-law, and I made the comment, I'm like, what I have found like over this past year, and then now playing this game, is if you look in the card game space, if you look at the people who are designing these games, it's amazing to me how all of these people are connected to Magic in one way or another. Yeah. Like either they've played it, or like it's the first game that they played as a card game, or they worked at Wizards. It's really interesting to me how a lot of the designers in the space have worked or have a connection with Magic.
Are you saying Wizard of the Coast is Illuminati?
Yes.
Oh my goodness. They control it all.
You heard it here. You heard it here first.
They control it all, Dan.
All right. So, all right. Let's get into the main topic. Right. So today the main topic is power creep. Power creep, this is something I've had on the list for quite a while, actually. Before I have a definition pulled up for power creep. But Jim, can you give the listeners a quick rundown of kind of what power creep is? Like, how would you define power creep?
Over the course of a game's time frame, the cards or whatever it is tends to just get stronger, more mana efficient over time for the game.
So
I think that's pretty much it.
Yeah, that's pretty much it. I've got Urban Dictionary pulled up, and they have one thing they say here is power creep is a, quote, a certain flaw in game balance design where content released later tends to get more powerful as time goes. This can be seen in multiplayer games that have regular expansions or balance patches. Now, the first thing I wanted to note is like power creep this is not something that is like strictly only seen in card games. Like power creep is something that can be seen really more so in like any digital game, like any digital multiplayer game that's like strategy based. Typically, like if you think League of Legends, Dota, anything.
Players tend to just get better and better.
Yeah, like the new heroes, new champions, they just get better and then start pushing the older things out. Now, in talking about card games, like viewing this through the lens of card games and card design, right? Basically, I want to talk about this example that I bring up all of the time. So it's the card Primal Rage. Okay, so Primal Rage, I've talked about this before. It's an enchantment for 1 and a green, and says creatures you control have trample. That's it. This card was originally released in Stronghold in 1998. Okay, now there is another card called Garrick's Uprising. Okay, this was originally released in Core Set 2021. So 2020 was when the card was released. So this is 22 years later after Primal Rage was released. Okay, that's a big time frame, really big time frame. Okay, but you look at the card. Okay, and there's actually quite a few things here that I kind of want to point out. But Garrick's Uprising, 2 and a green, so 3 total mana. It's an enchantment. When Garrick's Uprising enters the battlefield, if you control a creature with power 4 or greater, draw a card. Whenever a creature with power 4 or greater enters the battlefield under your control, draw a card. Also, creatures you control have trample. So it's Primal Rage with card draw on it for 1 additional mana.
Yeah.
Okay. I think this is a pretty perfect definition of power, example, I should say, of power creep, okay? But 22 years, that's a big span, right? Now, there are most definitely other cards within that 22-year time span that also give your creature control trample, right? Yeah. But these two specifically are
very similar.
Yeah, they're very similar, closely related in cost. We're only talking about a difference of 1 mana, 1 total mana. Yeah. Okay, and these are cards that just like I play Garrick's Uprising in a few of my commander decks. So that's one that I've seen. So now one thing that I kind of also thought about, the term strictly better You heard that term before, strictly better.
Yeah, strictly better MTG.
Yes, but like, there's a reason he called himself strictly
Okay,
better
okay.
MTG. Do you know that? Have you heard that? Have you really heard that term before outside of the channel name?
For something specific, I don't believe so. But I've heard people, if we were talking about like certain cards, they'll be like, "Why are you going to play that when you could play this? It's just strictly better." So I don't know exactly what it is that you're talking about.
Yeah. So typically, when you, from my understanding, okay, when someone uses the term strictly better, like if we look at my example here of Primal Rage and Garrick's Uprising.
Yeah.
Garrick's Uprising is a better card, okay?
Yeah.
However, with that cost difference of one additional, okay, they're still analyzed differently just because they're different CMCs. Now, if Garrick's Uprising cost 1 and a grain, had the exact same cost, I think then Garrick's Uprising, it would be considered a strictly better version.
Yeah.
So typically when you say strictly better, like they're very similar. Like the costs normally are like the exact same. There's everything else, like everything about the card is they're the same cards. It's just one has an insane, not even necessarily insanely, but just a much better effect. So like when you're paying the same amount of resources for each, if one, there's not a situation where you would choose the lesser one over the other one.
Yeah.
So that you would then say again, in our example, let's just assume Garrick's Uprising costs 2. You would never choose Primal Rage over Garrick's Uprising because it's the exact same cost, but Garrick's Uprising has way more upside, and you're getting the same effect from Primal Rage that you are on Garrick's Uprising. So therefore, Garrick's Uprising is class. I don't even know why I would say this classically, but it would be defined as strictly better.
Yeah.
So so when you use the term strictly better, like everything about the card is the same, or 2 cards are the same, but 1 card just has so much more upside.
Yeah.
And like because you're comparing apples to apples.
Yeah.
Like
It's like comparing Shock to Lightning Bolt.
correct. Perfect example.
Except the one came out in '93.
Yeah. Well, right. But
That card got nerfed, actually.
both are because both are instants.
Yeah, both are instants. Both are 1 mana.
Correct.
One is just 50% more damage.
Correct. Yep. The Lightning Bolt is strictly better than Shock. Absolutely. So yeah, like so typically
that one's power nerf though.
So when you're using the term strictly better, again, my understanding is the costs for the cards are normally they're the same because it's easy. It's much easier to analyze things when they're the exact same. When the costs are different, then you have to go and I would then you have to look at like fractions and then be like, okay, what are you getting like for like what's the ratio to cost and all that kind of stuff. So when the costs are the exact same, it's much easier to analyze card to card, for example. So if you ever hear someone use the term strictly better, that's typically what it means. It's like everything about these cards is they're the exact same card, but one is just objectively better, for the cost. Like they're the exact same thing.
Yep.
So that's again my understanding of the term strictly better. There is a I'm pulling this up here, Strictly Better MTG Wiki. Strictly Better describes a card which is in isolation from other effects, superior to another card in at least one respect, while being worse in 0 respects. Cards are commonly found to be strictly better than others by virtue of lower cost, larger effect, instant speeds, greater power, toughness, or more versatile or added effects. So would you say Garrick's Uprising is strictly better than Primal Rage?
Yes.
I would, yeah.
I mean, sure, it doesn't cost less, like from what that thing is talking about, but it's more value for the cost. Even though it doesn't instantly give you anything, it's just now playing to more of a strength that you're already
it should instantly give you something by drawing a card on ETB, because when it ETB
Oh, is it ETB draw a card? Mm-hmm. Oh, okay. I thought it was when creatures enter.
it's also that.
Oh, okay. All right. Cards strictly better. Replaces itself.
Yes. Yeah. When Garrick's Uprising enters the battlefield, if you control a creature with power 4 or greater, draw a card.
Because then at that point, it's 1 mana, draw a card.
Yes.
Along with the 2 mana trample.
Correct.
So it's
correct.
You're getting more value from
Correct.
it aside from the creatures. Yeah.
Right.
Strictly better card.
Yeah. So when you're talking about like card analysis, when you're doing when we're doing any analysis on cards, like if you hear that term strictly better, like it's a way of breaking down like if cards are better than other cards. Yeah. So yeah, that was something that I was thinking about. So okay, you brought up a pretty good example though with shock and lightning bolt. Do you have are there any other? Is that probably your classic? Would that be your classic
lightning strike? But yeah, like lightning bolt. I guess you could also bring up the blue one that got nerfed. Ancestral Recall? Ancestral
Recall or Ancestral Vision?
Ancestral Visions, yeah, that's the one.
Okay, yeah.
Because that's 1 mana, draw 3 cards.
Yeah. Okay.
Now we have 1 mana, draw cards.
Yeah,
oh, well, we do have 1 mana, look at the top card of the deck, leave it on top, put it to the bottom or graveyard, and then draw a card. Yeah. So you still can see like 2 cards, but you really only get the 1 card.
All right, so one thing that
it's not strictly better.
All right, so one thing that I'd be remiss if I didn't mention is I actually had a really good conversation with my brother-in-law last night. So my brother-in-law, friend of the show, Michael, was over last night. We played Smash Up, but we talked for like a good hour just about card games and just games in general, right? We talked a lot about Lorcana and like what his thoughts are. But, you know, I was giving him a lot of examples and talking about Magic because, like, it's what I know, okay? And Magic has been around for 30 years, okay? 30 years. Like, we can say that now, Jim. We can say that
Not yet. Not yet. We still have a couple months. We still got a couple months, Dan.
We're in the year. We're in the year. All right, so Magic has been around for, like, 30 years, right?
Yeah.
And like in that example, like we talked about cards that were printed 22 years apart. Yep. Okay. So creep, like when you use the word creep means slow. Okay. It's a slow change. It's something that it's a change that happens slowly over time. It's not something that happens overnight. It can. And you see that more in newer digital games. Of stuff happening like right away, and you can see that normally like in like newer releases. Yep. Like Marvel Snap is one that comes to mind of just a game that's pretty prevalent right now in the digital card game space. Yeah. But newer cards, and there's so many talks a lot of times about nerfs and buffs of. Leader needs to be nerfed. Leader absolutely does need to be nerfed. I hate that card so much.
I haven't even played this game yet.
So Leader, okay, all right. Leader, its card costs 6 resources.
Okay. 6
mana. Okay, and so you'll play that normally on last turn 6 of the game. Okay, 4 power. But what Leader does, and when you play a copy of every card that your opponent played that turn, but on your side. Yep.
It's the last turn, and it's also the turn you have the most like mana to play stuff?
Yes. So you play 1 card. So you play 1 card, Leader, but now you're also playing every single card that your opponent played on your side, assuming you have the space in each location.
Right. So in theory, you are just always +4 your opponent in terms of overall power.
In theory,
yes.
Correct.
Which they can definitely play around it.
Correct.
But yeah, that seems... and you can only have, 4 characters at
4 cards at each location, and there's 3 locations.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. So yeah, I mean, that seems pretty strong.
So people have been talking a lot about nerfing leader, which rightfully so. Like that card's just I hate always seeing that card. But you have to play around it. Like you always have to play if you don't have leader in your deck. Okay, turn
Just
6. If they have 6 mana, they could play leader.
Just like going through it and us talking about it, I'm like, okay, yeah, you can play around that card.
Yes, you can. You can.
So
yeah. So one thing that like digital games do have an advantage, okay, over physical games is patching, right? So we just talk about nerfs and buffs, right? You can do that with digital games. You can't do that really with physical card games. Or well, okay, you can't balance patch it, but you can ban it. Like that's what you can do in physical card games.
I think there's only been one card stat wise that was changed, and it was the 2/3 like corpse rider guy to a 2/2.
No, I thought that was just a misprint. I think that was.
I don't know.
I think that was,
Was it just a
misprinted.
misprint?
I think that was misprinted
Okay.
because there were a lot of copies. So let me see if I can find that
His
card.
name was Corpse something. I think he was
It's an
card.
Orzhov. Yes, it's an Orzhov zombie. I had it in my commander deck. I had a
Every time I see someone playing the card, I'm like, is that the pre or post nerf?
Yes.
They're like, what are you talking about?
yeah. So
Like,
let
is it
me-
a 2/2 or a 2/3? Which one do you have?
because it's supposed to be. I believe it's supposed to be a 2/2.
Yeah.
Corpse Knight. All right, here
Corpse
it is.
Knight.
So Corpse Knight, and I had a 2/3 version.
Yeah,
okay,
yeah.
so Corpse Knight is a white and a black creature zombie knight, or cost a white and a black. Okay, whenever another creature enters the battlefield under your control, each opponent loses a life. So yeah, I
card.
was playing zombie tokens and just drain my opponent a lot. Okay, so it's a 2/2. There were a lot of printings of that card that were a 2/3, so 2 attack, 3 defense, or 3 toughness. Excuse me.
Yeah.
I had that 2/3 in my deck. I had that in my Esper Zombies deck.
Yeah,
And I didn't know that like it was supposed to be a 2/2. So
As time goes on, people just forget. So now you just got a 2/3. Think about that.
exactly.
Think about that.
Yes. So what I think happened, I think it was just misprinted. I think there were a lot of misprintings that had 2/3, but it was supposed to be a 2/2.
Okay.
I don't think it was something that was. It came out was a 2/3, and they were like, "Oh, we need to change this. We need to change it to make it a 2/2."
Yeah.
I think that's how it happened. Now, if you guys know, let us know. I'd be interested.
Also,
to
how
know.
I was thinking it of was like, oh, okay, yeah, we're gonna have it a 2/3, but then like they printed for a day and they're like, no, we can't have this be a 2/3.
Yeah.
And they're like, oh, we got to change it. And so all future printings after like that first day, then they were all 2/2s.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I don't know how it works.
I'm wondering if like it got sent to the printers, and then quality control's looking through the cards and they're like, guys, this is a 2/3. I'm pretty sure it's supposed to be a 2/2. Well, I don't know. I have no idea what happened there.
Dang it, Jeff.
Damn it, Jeff! What are you doing? You're fired. If that'd be hilarious if that actually happened. That'd be so funny, dude. So the other thing I wanted to talk about is companion. Companion, anyone?
That got eroded.
That mechanic got changed. Like that is actually a really good example, right? Of there were cards printed because so what happens in a lot of times what card games will do is on the card, like they'll have a keyword and then they'll have a rules text explaining how it works. So with the companion, okay, companion essentially was a keyword. I believe, correct? Yeah. So when that set came out, what was that set?
No,
not Ixalan.
Ikoria,
there we go. Okay, so when that set came out, the cards came out and they had companion on it, and then they had the rules text explaining how companion worked. Yes. And so basically how companion worked, and we've talked about this before, but how companion worked was the card would go in your companion zone, assuming you met the deck building requirements for it to be there.
Yeah.
It basically
was a card in the side.
It was basically what happened was you could cast it for its regular cost.
Yeah.
So it's basically acted like it was in your hand.
Always in your hand.
It was always in your hand, but it wasn't in your hand, so your opponent could not interact with it in any way, right? So Luris, I think Luris was the big problem. I believe
Luris was the biggest problem, yes.
Was there another problem?
The Sky Noodle.
Oh, yes.
I
Yeah.
forget its name.
I can't remember.
Something with it. Yorion.
Yorion, there we go. Yorion, yeah.
But she just got banned in Modern. Well,
Not that long ago. Or no, that got banned a while ago, I think.
it wasn't like a while ago, but I'd say like for sure less than 6 months ago, I want to say.
Oh, yeah, okay. Yeah.
So.
Yeah, right. So, yeah, people found out really quickly, like within I think this happened within the first week of set release. And the advantage,
changed it?
I
remember.
Maybe not first week, but I think it was first month.
Yeah, I want to say it was about a month.
I think it was the first month. But the advantage that Magic had is they have a digital client Arena, so they have all that data, and they can see how these games are going, right? So they changed how that mechanic worked real quick. So what happened was they eroded the mechanic to be you had to pay 3, and you could only activate as a sorcery to put it to take your companion from your sideboard and put it into your hand, and then you can cast it.
I kind of wish it was an instant speed. That would have been good.
Oh, that would have
been great.
That would have been yeah.
Sign
obviously.
me up for that.
Yes, yeah, yeah. So that's the only example that I know. There's probably other examples in Magic of rules that had to be eroded and changed.
Yeah. I'm sure a lot of rules have been changed.
Oh, well, yes, for sure.
But like keywords on cards themselves. For Magic, I can't really think of a lot. But for Yu-Gi-Oh, there's been a lot.
Well, but also too, like if you ever look at the rule book for Magic, okay, 300 pages,
something along those lines.
It's a lot. But again, you have to think that's happened over the course of 30 years.
Yeah.
And anytime new mechanics are printed, they have a template set up of how the rules get added to the official rule book.
They need to change layering. Please change layering.
Change
you make
layering.
0 sense. 0 sense as to why.
Yeah.
What's the card called? Cast down? Cast away?
No, not cast down.
I always mess it up.
Dress down.
Dress down. I always call it cast down. That's a black card.
Cast down is a black card. Yeah.
Dress down doesn't stop. I don't understand. It makes no sense. Dan, you lose all abilities, but apparently you get all your abilities.
Well, not all of them. It's just.
It's just.
Which one does it? Which one does it not stop?
It doesn't get rid of makes your lands all lands.
Yes, that's right. Yes. Which is so weird.
It's a continuous effect. Dan,
It's
you don't
so
get any
weird.
abilities. Shh, guys. You can still be lands.
I get
I'm not going to let him know.
That's how you do that too.
It makes no sense, dude.
I just hope your opponent doesn't know how the card works. What I hate, one thing I don't like is if I'm playing in a tournament and my opponent doesn't know how his cards work.
Yeah.
Like I know how his cards work, but he doesn't.
Yeah.
Or they don't. I'm just like, I'm not gonna tell him.
Yeah, I ain't saying nothing.
I ain't saying nothing.
Unless it benefits me.
Exactly. Or no, unless it benefits him.
No, I'm saying I ain't gonna say something unless it benefits me. So if he's doing something wrong and it's hurting me, I'm gonna say something.
Yeah.
Be like, okay, hold on, we need to make this correct, so it helps me.
Yeah. I'll explain to you how it works. Okay.
Yeah.
And then if you don't believe me, I will call a judge over, and then they will explain to you how it works.
Yeah.
So yeah, that happened to me. That's happened to me a few times actually.
Yeah.
I'm like, do you got to know how your own cards work, man?
Yeah.
If you don't know how someone else's cards work, okay, like that. That's acceptable.
That makes sense.
That makes sense. But your own cards, like, come on.
I'm sure
man.
you've been play testing this for a bit.
Maybe you haven't, but
Maybe you haven't.
Yeah. All right. So what power creep comes down to is it's really a game balance issue. That's really, I think, what power creep comes down to. Okay. And so the reason I say that too is if you look at Legacy or eternal formats are really where you could see if power creep is an issue or not. Okay. So my thinking is like if you look at, and when I say legacy or eternal formats, I'm essentially meaning formats to where all cards ever printed for the game are legal in that format.
Yeah.
Okay. So if you were to look at the meta for a format like that, so for Magic, that's essentially legacy, correct? I believe that's
Legacy and vintage.
Yeah. So legacy and vintage. If the majority of the meta decks are cards that have been printed within the past year, and you don't have anything older than that, then you may have a power creep issue.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, I'm not saying that's the case because, like, I've never played Legacy and Vintage, but actually, I don't know if I talked about this at the beginning of the show when we talked about past few weeks, but on what's today? So on Friday night, I went to a local game store with some friends of ours from the community, and it was a Pioneer event. I went just to play Commander. I just wanted to play Commander because that's all I play. I don't even have a Pioneer deck, but I did see the Pioneer deck that I would play.
Okay.
It is Karn Devotion.
Karn Devotion.
Do you know this deck?
I assume it's using the land that produces a bunch of mana. Yeah, Nykthos.
Yeah.
To give you a lot of mana to cast big stuff.
It's basically
Green Tron.
Exactly. It's basically Tron and Pioneer is basically what it is. I'll show you the deck list when we're done with this. But dude, I'm watching this guy pilot it. I'm like, I'm in love.
Yeah.
Like, this is the deck that I would
course
play.
it is.
And so I'm standing next to Avi, and Avi's like, yeah, dude, this is your deck. And I'm like, oh, yes, this is definitely my deck, Avi. So where was I going with this?
I don't know.
So, well, it was great, too, because, like, people are playing Pioneer.
Yeah.
Okay? I'm there to just play Commander, and I was able to get a few games of Commander. And actually, I just played Commander with Lucas and Jake.
Yeah.
And so we each got one win. Played 3 games, we each got a win. Yeah. A lot of fun. But there was also people playing Flesh and Blood, and so I was able to watch people play Flesh and Blood. It was really it's really great. I really like going to an LGS and seeing a bunch of different games. Now the majority of people were playing Magic, but like there were people playing Flesh and Blood. There's somebody who had a box of DC deck building game actually. And so I didn't say anything. And I'm like, you want to play? But no, I didn't say anything. But anyway, so like I finally got a taste of, well, not a taste, but I got to see kind of what Pioneer was about.
Yeah.
And so anyway, in between games, one of the organizers there had, I don't know if they were I assume they were proxy decks of a bunch of legacy decks. And so people are playing just legacy in between all the games.
Yeah.
And so everybody had a lot of fun. But there were old cards, right? Now, if you look at Magic, the thing with Magic is, like, there are old cards that are super OP that they're on the restricted lists. You can only have one copy
Normally,
in these decks.
I've noticed this in the card games. It tends to be older support or utility cards from the original days of these card games that are ridiculously good. Then as it progresses, the creatures and other stuff start to get really, really good.
Yeah.
And then when you merge them together, being like, oh, I have this OP support stuff, now we have really good cards on top of that.
So when Luris came out, that was where like Luris and Vintage and Legacy was just really insane.
And Modern, it was everywhere. Every format. It was huge. Just, especially in the older formats, when you had cards that were just so good with 2 mana or less.
Yeah.
Well, now it's just like, all right, well, okay, Luris is going to go get me back my Black Lotus. It's going to go get me back a Mox if it was like
your 4 of Black Lotus?
Yeah, my 4 of Black Lotuses. Wrong format.
Steven, you're the man, dude. I love you, Steven.
But yeah, like the card was just ridiculous. Even in Modern, right, where most of the stuff you're going to be seeing is like 2 mana and less. And, well, at least that's how it tends to be. The card's just ridiculously strong. And then in all the other formats, it's just, again, an even better card because now if you can't play those cards in Modern, well, you can play those cards in Legacy. You can play those cards in Vintage.
Yeah. So,
One thing I did want to bring up though,
Yeah.
because we have talked about the power creep going up over time. Utility stuff tends to get nerfed over time. Creatures tend to grow over time. But the one thing I did want to bring up is I don't think it's necessarily a balancing issue. It
Okay.
is, how are we going to sell stuff?
Yeah.
That's what I think it is.
Planeswalkers.
You gotta bring new stuff to the table.
Well, it's interesting because so like I said, I was talking to Michael yesterday about Lorcana, right?
Yeah.
And we were talking about like potential cards, and one thing we were talking about is like, I was explaining how in Magic, right? They had their characters,
Yeah.
but they have like the sub names, right? So you got Liliana of the Veil, Liliana Dreadhorde General, for example, right? And just kind of explaining how that worked within the lore. And then like his point was, well, Lorcana can't really do that because they have these stories that are pre-existing. And I'm like, no, they absolutely 100% can.
definitely can.
But that's beside the point, right? Where I was going was I'm explaining like how I would love to see these other cards like the lamp, carpet, support style cards.
Yeah.
Right. And so he made the point of like what he was saying was, yeah, they definitely could do that, but like that's not what are gonna get people excited about like the game. Like the stuff that's gonna sell are the characters. I'm like, you're not wrong.
Yeah.
You're very much
But
correct.
the support stuff, especially the first one, we need to be able to look out for broken support cards.
Yes. Yeah, for sure. For sure. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And like, why couldn't they do like like you were saying, or like he was saying, you can't do characters with like these other little subtitles. It's like you could have Elsa as or we'll say Mulan, right? Where she was in the start of the story versus the ending of the story of a warrior versus her geisha setup. You could easily have two separate cards, or even, hey, have them flip, right? For a cost. You'd have, I don't even know what you would call the first
Yeah,
one.
right.
Immature person. And the last one is fine warrior. I don't know.
Yeah, right,
whatever
right.
it is. You could definitely do that.
My point too was, there are even like take Mulan for example.
Yeah.
Okay. Yes, you have those two versions, but even those two versions, you could have 10 different versions of
Yes.
like the geisha one.
Yes.
Like you could.
Yeah.
My point was the possibilities are literally endless. Like it's yes, Mulan has her story arc and she does like you can't change the story. Like we get that. That's understood. But you definitely could have even in one scene in that movie, you could have 10 different versions of a card.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
You could make it to where one of them could be she summons a cricket.
Yeah.
Or something along these
absolutely,
lines.
for sure.
Summons a dragon.
Yeah. A dragon. All right. So the last thing I want to touch on here is how do you avoid power creep? So one thing I have written down here is playtesting. With playtesters who understand the meta and the card pool. So yes, playtesting 100% helps, but like it really does come from the design team. Like you have to be intentional with how you design your cards. And I think so. I think I've said this before, but like power creep is just designers being lazy because they're like, oh, we have this card, let's just make it better. Which yes, you can do that. Now obviously designers can do whatever they want; it's their game. Like obviously, right? But it's harder. It's harder to design, come up with new stuff. Like being creative, like it's hard. Like it comes easier to some people. I think everybody can be creative. Everyone has that in them. But coming up with new ideas is hard. It's much easier to take an existing idea or an existing mechanic or an existing card and evolve it, make it better, right? So I think the design team just has to be intentional with how they're designing their cards. And again, with with Magic, it's been around for almost 30 years. Dude, there's cards that I don't even know about. Like, I could come up with a card, and then it could be like, oh, yeah, we already have that on this card.
Yeah.
Like, oops.
Oh.
Like, that... Because, again, like, how many different people have worked on Magic over the years? Like, there's people... I would venture to guess that the majority of people working at Wizards of the Coast and working on Magic were not there at day one. I'd venture... so I don't think there's anybody... I could be wrong. I have no knowledge. I have no idea. But I don't think anybody who's working on Magic right now was there from day one.
Yeah.
I would venture to guess that's not the case. Now, again, I don't know. No clue, no idea. But the only way...
I'd have to look into it. I have no idea.
Yeah, right. But my point is, like, the only way you're gonna know everything is like you're there from day one.
Yeah.
Like you haven't, you've got that inside knowledge.
Yeah.
Right.
I think
it's easier to know that.
I think that's just one part of the power creep, like you were saying. It was just find a card, make it better. You know, the mana cost could be different, blah blah blah. But it's also a thing of complexity as well, which we talked a little bit about power creep inside of like video games, League of Legends. It tends to be like the new characters are more complicated or are better because they're more complicated and they have these higher ceilings of gameplay. So if you're a top tier player and you pretty much are like, oh, we know exactly where this one character is, how he goes, but this other one, the utility is absurd, and utility kinds to then take over those games as well. Not even just like, oh, I hit this one button and I deal half their damage. Right. Versus oh, I hit this one and it deals 55%, or it's oh, I'm now jumping over walls and everything, getting a lot of vision on people. But so for like the card games, it's not just I make this one card better. It's now adding complexity to stuff. Yeah. Especially, we can talk about Oko. Planeswalker for 2 mana. Is 2 mana, right? 3 mana. 3 mana. And
1 in Simic.
Pretty much destroy something on your opponent's board.
Yep. And then have the ability to maybe do it again next turn.
Yeah.
Which I don't think you could do because I think
because it was -2, or was it? I don't remember.
I don't remember.
Abilities.
I don't remember either.
I had someone ask me the other day. They're like, "Do you think Oko's ever going to get off the ban list?" I'm like, "Why would Oko ever get off the ban list?"
All right, so Oko. All right, so Oko, yeah, one in Simic, so 1 green and a white, or green and a blue. My bad. Comes in with. It came in with 4 loyalty.
Oh, why?
It came in with 4 loyalty.
Why?
Okay, so it came in with 4. +2, create a food token.
Yeah.
+1, target artifact or creature loses all abilities and becomes a green elk creature with base power and toughness 3/3. -5.
Did you just say +1? Why is this a thing?
That was a +1, dude.
Okay.
-5, exchange control of target artifact or creature you control and target creature an opponent controls with power 3 or less.
Okay. So, 3 mana for a +1 of destroy your opponent's thing. Essentially,
it's essentially
thing.
that, yeah. Right.
And then you go to this card now gives you 5 life.
Yep. Okay. Broken. That's the reason I got banned.
For 3 mana.
Yep.
Gain 5 life, kill your opponent's thing.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
That card's not coming back. Yeah, that's a power creep that we need to look out for. Okay,
Right.
even if it was a -1 on that ability,
that's
like it would still be absurdly
so
good.
crazy, yeah.
Especially the 4 loyalty for 3 mana. I think that is instantly a huge red flag.
Oh yeah. Because normally with Planeswalkers, you're looking to get what you put into it for the loyalty.
Yeah.
So for 3 mana, you'd be expecting 3 loyalty.
Yeah, even if it was he didn't have the +2, say it was a +1, put him to 2 or 3 loyalty to then turn him into 4 if you wanted to gain the food token.
Right.
Yeah, I don't think that should be a thing.
Yeah. Well, Ren and 6 is another one. It's a 2-mana
my
Planeswalker.
goodness, yes.
2-mana Planeswalker comes with
he's
3
so good.
loyalty. Yeah.
Get a land back from graveyard. Fetch land. Okay, give me that.
Yep. Yep.
Cycle Land as well. You can just be like, oh, give me that Cycle Land.
Or discard it to Barborgamos.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. So many good things.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's another big power creep card. But we could also talk about a lot of cards that are just super lackluster that you do not want to play at all.
Very
and
true.
they have to have that scale of terrible cards to make
Correct.
the better cards look even better.
Correct, yeah. So, all right, so that's power creep. Before we get into the next segment, I want to toss it over to you guys. What do you think? Do you think power creep is an issue? I mean, I've never met anyone who disagrees with that, who thinks it's not an issue. Normally, anyone who's been in the card game space for any amount of time, knows power creep is a thing and it's a problem. But what's your guys' opinion on it? Let us know. Be very interested to know, do you have any examples that you've seen in your games? Maybe it's not Magic, maybe it's a different card game that are like prime examples of power creep in your game. I'd be very interested, very, very interested to know. So, all right, with that, we are back to our favorite segment, Card of the Week.
Yes.
Card of the week. So this week's card of the week. So before we started recording this episode, I was talking a bit about the segment card of the week, and I'm like, I really started making this list and wanting to get cards that are not Magic cards, because a lot of the cards that we featured on this segment have been a lot of Magic cards, but I really want this segment to be just really getting you all to know these different card games that we all enjoy. So we're going to start that with a game that we've played that we have a lot of fun with. This is a card from Here to Slay. It is Meowzio. Yes. Meowzio is a hero, a thief card, okay, with the ability... it's basically the ability.
Yeah.
On a 10 plus, choose a player, steal a hero from that player, and pull a card from that player's hand. So you get to, that's a steep thing. That's 10. You need 10. Okay, so that's...
It's not really that difficult, though. You just roll the dice, and then boom, 10.
You roll it and then just go, oh, there we go, 10, there we go.
You can modify it with other cards.
You can modify it, yep.
Yeah.
So anyway, 10 plus, you are up 2 cards. You steal a hero and you take a card from their hand. A very, very powerful. Now, I never noticed this. Never ever noticed this. I don't know how I didn't notice this. But we had somebody left a comment on one of our Hearsay videos where we played Meowzio, and they were like, oh, it's Ezio. That's supposed to be Ezio from Assassin's Creed? And I'm like, how have I never seen this? So you look at it, he's got the hood.
Yeah,
he's got the literal hood from Assassin's Creed. Yeah. He's got the hood.
Yeah.
He's straight up got the hood, and I'm like, absolutely. What it would have made it better is if he had the
hidden daggers.
Yeah, the hidden blades. Yeah, that would have really made it. But yeah, I'm like, that is absolutely Ezio. The best Assassin's Creed games ever.
I don't think I ever got to play
the
the Meowzio in our game, but I believe you used it against me, and I was like, yeah, that can't be a thing. Okay. That's like an instant no.
All right, so this card actually came out in our game, in our 5-player game, right? Okay. So I think somebody went to play the card, and I'm like, guys, we cannot let him have this card. If you have a challenge, you challenge this immediately. Immediately. So I think it got challenged and then went to discard. And that card kept coming out of this. There were ways to get it. And I'm like, oh no, and so I think my father-in-law ended up getting that card back. And I'm like, this is definitely the most powerful card that you could get from the discard. You want this card.
So for Dan, right, he was like, guys, we can't let this hit the board. If it was me, I would have been like, what would you target?
Yeah. Right.
Be like, if you're not going to target one of my things, I might be down.
The thing was, though, I knew it was coming at me. So I'm like, I know where this is going. At that point,
I would have been like, guys, he's going to go after Dan's stuff. Let him take care of it. And in fact, we should help him with this Meowzio card out.
Yes, exactly. But again, like that's the beauty of playing multiplayer games, of playing these multiplayer card games.
Yep.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah, it's fun. It was fun though.
Dan plays to help himself. I play to have everyone have fun.
I'm green. Like I'm a green player. What do you expect?
I'm just over here like
Timmy.
pure chaos. Let's make this happen.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's always fun watching it too. So yeah. So Meowzio is this week's card of the week. Yeah, love that card. It's a fan, and now that I know the connection, I'm like, oh yeah, I love it even more.
Super cool.
The thief class in Here to Slay is just
Beautiful.
the best class. One of the best classes, I think, because you're I mean, it's right up your alley. You're stealing your opponent's stuff.
It's hard for me to say just because like I don't know all the cards that they have, and I know some barbarian is just like destroy your opponent's stuff for like 6 on a die rather than a 10 and take it. I'm perfectly fine with just blow it up. Just blow it up. I don't need it. Just get rid of it as long as that is there. Or even the mage cards. The mage cards also have just like blow stuff up too.
Oh yeah. True.
Yeah. Oh, but the Guardians, dude, make all your stuff better. Guardians are so good.
They are so good.
And we talked about this, the power creep of early game support cards. The Guardians can just make all of your stuff happen.
So I think it was my father-in-law's one of his last turns. He was trying to plan out his turn. Yep. He had the Guardian, which if he activated it right, gave all his other rolls +5. So he's trying to plan out because he's like, he knows if it goes somebody else, he's probably gonna lose. Yeah. So he's trying to plan out how to do it. And so one of them was like, I have to get this +5, and then everything will work out. Yep. As you know.
Yep. It's pretty nice. I ain't gonna lie.
So yeah, it ended up not working out for him.
Ouch.
But yeah, Meowzio, great card. So yeah, that is this week's card of the week. I'm excited for this year and really that segment. So yeah. So that's all we got for you guys this week. I think we're starting off 2023 with a bang. We're talking a lot about this year, and I'm excited. I'm excited for what 2023 is going to bring for us in Hobbies and Happiness. So we've got a lot of things coming that we're super excited about, and excited to tell you all about it coming soon. So, all right, before we get out of here, Jim, where can people find you on the internet?
Yeah, you guys can find me on Twitter, Twitch, and Instagram at Jim Morgan HNH. You
guys can find me on Twitter at _DG Campbell and on Instagram at Daniel.G.Campbell. What are you even doing? If you head over to our website, www.hobbiesandhappiness.com, you can find links to all our social platforms there. Links to YouTube, Facebook, pretty much everything is there. I'm going to be working this month at getting that website really up to date. But yeah, head over there. You can find links to all of our stuff. And before we get out of here, very interested to know, everybody, what you thought of this week's episode. Leave your comments down below. Don't forget, hit that subscribe button if you're watching on YouTube, and hit that bell icon to be notified when we release new videos on a weekly basis. Yes. So thanks, everybody, for being here. Jim, great to have you. Looking forward to 2023.
I'm ready.
And thanks, everybody, for being here. We'll catch you in the next episode. See you, everybody.
Take care.